happy they are to live in Santa Barbara. As long as they have a steady income and a place to live, they're happy. So please help me achieve these goals and let me know how I can work with you. The mayor's office and our business community can be effective partners, improving the quality of life for city residents and those living on the South Coast and beyond. Let's work together on business recovery and long-term economic development. Let's take care of our natural environment and lend support to our nonprofits, schools, and churches. Our undocumented workforce is an integral part of our economy. We know that. Let's create opportunities for everyone. I invite any of you who don't know me to make an appointment. I want to hear your concerns and ideas, even your criticisms of city government. We share a common goal of improving our economic vitality and the personal well-being of all the members of our community. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're on. Okay. Let's see. The chair will bring to order the Monday, April 16th, Single Family Design Board. This time I'm going to do it correctly. Can we have a roll call, please, before we start?
Here we go. Chair Sweeney.
Here.
Vice Chair Miller.
Here.
Jen Farrell.
Here.
Lisa James.
Here.
Joseph Matisha.
Here.
Jonathan Ziegler. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The chair will open it for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address any item not on today's agenda? Seeing no one come forward, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for approval of the minutes of our April 2nd meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
I second it.
Second, let's go through it to make sure there's no corrections or questions. Let's see. Was there any items on the announcements? Item number 1, 23 Wade Court. Item number 2, 758 Juanita Avenue. Item number 3, 824 Summit Road. Item number 4, 1534 La Cornelia Drive. Hearing no comments or corrections, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, one abstention.
Was there 1426 Mountain View?
Did I catch that one?
Yeah,
Did I miss it?
You missed the
I'm
last
sorry.
one.
Does anybody have any questions on that one? If not, let's vote. Let's stand.
Got it.
Okay, let's go to the consent calendar for April 9th. Katie.
The minutes for the SFDB consent agenda for April 9th are as follows. Item A, 1806 Lighthouse Way, received approval of review after final is submitted. Item B, 1804 Lighthouse Way, received approval of review after final is submitted. Item C, 210 Balboa Drive, received approval of review after final is submitted. Item D, 1931 Garden Street was continued 1 week to consent with the comments to provide a garage door, gate, and fence details, and provide colors on a colors and materials board. Item E, 803 Litchfield Lane was continued indefinitely to consent with the comments to return with a colors material board, to provide a cut sheet for the door, and to identify the light fixtures on the plans. Item F, 612 East De La Guerra Street was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer to return to consent with comments that the proposed wall is aesthetically appropriate, the proposed size, scale, and height are appropriate and consistent with the neighborhood, and to return with the colors/materials board. Item G, 1542 Knoll Circle Drive, received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings, with the condition that the window improvements shall match the inked-in changes noted on Plan Sheet A 1.1.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
You have a second?
Second it.
Any questions or comments? Katie, one thing I forgot on item E, 803 Litchfield, number 3, where it says identify the light fixtures on the plans. It should read plans and elevations,
Okay.
please. Anything else? Not. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Let's go to this morning. Consent calendar for April 16th, please. Katie.
The minutes for the SFDB consent agenda for April 16th are as follows. Item A, 30 Skyline Circle, received final approval with the comment that the trellis on Plan Sheet A3 is supportable. Item B, 1931 Garden Street, received project design approval and final approval with the NPO and MZE findings and the comment that the board appreciates the revisions made to the Mission Street wall elevation and finds the revised location supportable. Item C, 615 Sierra Street, received project design approval and was continued indefinitely to consent with the NPO findings, to provide additional photographs, add lighting location details to the elevations, to provide color samples for the lift, and to provide a color and materials board. Item D, 1620 Eucalyptus Hill Road was continued indefinitely to consent with the comments to verify the proposed deck can structurally support a deck, to provide additional photographs of all elevations. Number 3, the board does not support the laundry room as currently proposed / shown on the plans. And number 4, to provide details of the proposed lighting. Item E, 365, oh, sorry. 2 more comments from the last item. Number 5, to restudy the deck size and style as it is not supportable as currently proposed / shown on the plans. And number 6, the proposed glass railing is not supportable. Item E, 365 El Cielito Road, received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval, please?
I make that motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. Katie, before we vote, I just have a general question. I don't want to pick on an individual. Does everybody that comes in front of us or comes in front of the consent calendar, do they get an intake session with a staff planner? Does it?
There's an intake checklist that is done when the project is received at the counter, and then it gets routed for a preliminary plan check, at which point they are notified of, any outstanding corrections on the plans or things that need to be addressed.
But there's no one-on-one sit down and look at the whatever they're.
No.
Okay. And could they get that if they paid for that? Is that how that works? Or is that only happens if it's a modification?
They could come to the counter and request to go over something with us. We could make time for that, but that hasn't been something we've practiced.
So generally, that doesn't happen unless it's a modification or some other planning commission kind of activity.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
One question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The 137% FAR on the last item E.
Yes.
On El Cielito.
It's an existing huge house. It's a very big house, but it's on 2 acres, and it's existing. The only thing the applicant was doing was actually the applicant owner is he's replacing a whole bunch of windows and doors.
Windows and door, okay.
There was a minor addition of
Little-
55 square feet, and then they had to approve a fence and gate as well, but that was.
Thank you.
So, yeah,
Curious.
it wasn't a question of presenting that's, if it had, I would have bumped it up to here, but no. Okay. All right, anything else? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Announcements. Katie, do you have an announcement?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a couple announcements. So since our last hearing, the appellant for 636 Aurora Avenue has withdrawn the appeal, so that did not go to council. So we'll be seeing that again shortly. Tuesday, April 17th, that's tomorrow at City Hall, there's a city council meeting for the introduction of the ordinance amendments regarding the regulation of accessory dwelling units. And the adoption will be at a subsequent hearing, so if anyone's interested in attending that. There's also a meeting on Tuesday, April 24th, City Council public hearing on the city's draft coastal land use plan, considering the local coastal program amendments and map amendments and CEQA findings for adopting the LCP amendment and general plan map amendments. So if anyone's interested in attending that. And then I just had a quick announcement about notification of absence. We've been getting a lot of notifications of absence the day of the hearing, so it's really kind of too late to notify the day of the meeting. So please, just as far in advance as you can notify us. Of course, I understand if there's an emergency, but the earlier you can let us know that you won't be able to attend a hearing, the better. That way we make sure we have enough quorum for the items. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Katie?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, one
yeah,
last
go ahead.
announcement. I will be needing to leave at 5 today, so Pilar is going to be covering the last two items for me.
Okay, thank you. Brian, do you have an announcement? Did you attend the meeting?
Yes, I did. The city advisory meeting that was, I believe it was last Thursday.
I think we're on.
I was on. It was a really good meeting. All the chairs or vice chairs of the different committees of the city were there represented. I learned some things about our water. We're at 40% at Lake Kachuma, and thank God we have the desalinization plant working, because that's helping a lot with the city. There is a great deal of discussion about the ADU program and how that's going to morph and evolve in our city programs. And they are not planting any new trees because of the drought. But otherwise, fiscally, I guess we're fairly healthy.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of announcements. One is, as Katie pointed out, the ADU ordinance will be before council next Tuesday and the following Tuesday. I had already attended the ordinance committee meeting and presented the documents that we all reviewed and approved here. So those are in the public file. I did share those in response to a specific request to Council Jason Dominguez and Council Kristen Snedden. Mr. Dominguez also sent me a copy of a letter that was introduced or will be introduced for Tuesday's meeting from one of the architects in town and wanted me to comment on some of his issues. And I basically just circled back to the things that we've already talked about and emphasize how important we believe the checklist is that I drafted in August. Now, as to whether or not the council will give that attention remains to be seen. I will not be here for the next 2 weeks. I'm leaving in the morning for a trip. So if anybody would like to attend Tuesday's meeting, and you're certainly welcome to, and certainly if you think you could speak on behalf of the board, that's perfectly fine. So that's moving forward. The other meeting I did attend was on Friday, which was the combined meeting of the City Council and the Planning Commission, and it's their yearly look at workload and priorities for various activities that city staff provide. It really focused on the planning department. Several things are going to move forward. One of which I'm happy to announce is that Irma, our leader, is going to try to schedule here in the near future a training session for us, which we haven't had to date. She has done one for HLC and ABR, so our turn is next. I also relayed to Council and Planning Commission that I felt that the noticing and work description for our positions on this board probably needs a little help. I know you all indicated that you weren't quite notified on time, couldn't do the whatever, so hopefully they can address that. I did offer to Irma and the planning staff that I'd be happy to meet with them as chair of this board, and if anybody else would like to come with me, please let me know at some point in the future to go over some of the ongoing issues that we deal with. I let Council and Planning Commission know that at least in the 7 years I've been on this board, or soon to be 7 years, a lot of things that we see, a lot of folks, particularly when we have large community comment, they get concerned about issues that really don't fall under our purview. A lot of things you would see at Planning Commission, zoning violations, et cetera. And we continue to see that, and so that's a challenge. So I was hoping to sit down and talk with Irma about that and a few other things. I also suggested it might be helpful that if the three chairs of the three review boards sat down, that would be pretty important, because I think we all experience certain kinds of things. Every board is different. This board certainly is different in the light of the fact that our projects are so spread out across the city. Unlike HLC, which is concentrated in a specific district, and ABR is generally located along the commercial sectors of the city. One of the challenges we have is to try to get to know the neighborhoods and see all these sites. And so one of the things that we might be talking with staff about is getting a little bit more defined, the job description, so to speak, for our positions. Particularly because of the other piece of news that was introduced is there will be a move by staff at some point to have available to the community on the week before, probably the Thursday, once agendas are set and announced, electronically all the drawings, so they'd be available to the public. Well, I think there were a few public speakers that kind of insinuated that, well, okay, if that's the case, then we as board members should be looking at the drawings ahead of time rather than looking at them as they roll out on the table. And it's the same challenge for HLC and ABR. We all operate the same way. We typically don't see the drawings until they get rolled out in the public meeting. But I think there's a push by a lot of factors to probably require us to look at the drawings ahead of time. So in some ways that kind of changes our project description and maybe what you all signed up for. And particularly when it comes to having to go look at the site. The other thing that I did offer is I felt it was important, particularly with the ADU, but also the issue of enforcement, is looking at a position of a design architect to staff on the planning staff, just as they have an urban historian for HLC. I'm not sure that went over really well because it's a funded position, and immediately after everybody sat down and put their wish list on the table, including council and planning commission, city manager got up, Paul Casey, and said, gee guys, that all sounds great, but I only have so much money. So whether that happens or not, it appears that the discussion of form-based planning is now coming to fruition after many, many years of various people's trying to lobby several folks to look at that as an important planning component of how we're going to deal with the denser part of our community, particularly downtown. I don't know that it'll apply too much to our thinking, but as a single-family design unit. But that was certainly on the docket for discussion. Trying to think, there were a few other things, but I think those are the highlights. I assume at some point we'll get a report back from staff, and certainly they have an obligation to go back to council and planning commission to outline the next steps in terms of possible additional funding for planners and staff people, et cetera. I can tell you that the issue of enforcement has now risen its head. Council and planning commission are aware that not only the things we're looking at this board, but also on HLC and ABR and sign committee, that there's some enforcement issues. They're now realizing that some of this stuff, we've seen several projects that didn't get built per the drawings we approved or reviewed, and I think they're finding that in some of the other cases. So we'll see how that proceeds. So we'll look forward to having Irma come down and share with us some training issues here in the near future. I think I've already shared to you that I talked to Andrew Stuffel, the chief building official. He also hopefully plans to try to attend one of our meetings so we can kind of quiz him about the enforcement thing. I know that was one of the issues, and maybe some other things that are on our mind that we'll talk to him about. So I think that covers the 2 meetings I went to. Anyone else? Okay, let's then go to our first item, item number 1, 1704 La Vista del Oceano. This is here for comments only. Project requires staff hearing officer review. And I see staff is here, so they may want to bring us up to date where we are. And also, Brian, we probably have, we don't have comments from our last time because this is theoretically new, correct?
I did get something here, but I don't think.
That's it. So, what do we know?
Okay, I'll start off. Jessica Grant, and I am the case planner for this project. I'm also the acting zoning and enforcement supervisor. So today we're here to discuss 1708 La Vista del Oceano. It's also known as 1704 La Vista del Oceano when it went through just the discretionary process, but through the building permit process and addressing, it is now 1708. So we included both of those addresses in the record for the notice. But it has always remained consistent as Lot 3. I will repeat this again just as for background of why it's before the Single Family Design Review Board. So this property is part of the Rogers Tract subdivision. And so, as you recall, the subdivision was deemed an illegal subdivision back in 1979 by the Planning Commission because it was created originally by a series of deed conveyances, etc. So fast forward to 2002, there was the Mesa Santa Barbara LLC formed, and they really provided a comprehensive resolution for this whole area. And basically what they ended up doing was merging lots and then re-subdividing. So the subdivision was approved by the Planning Commission in 2004. And there were 2 projects within that subdivision. There was the single family subdivision, and then there was the duplex subdivision. So what you've been seeing over the series of months has been part of the single family subdivision, which is 6 homes. This is for this particular property, the Architecture Board of Review is the one who reviewed and approved the house back in November 13th, 2006. The Single Family Design Board did see this property, but it had to do with site walls and revisions to the pool in January 28th, 2013. Building permits were issued for the home on May 7th, 2007, and basically this project has not received its final certificate of occupancy. So it's gone through a series of inspections, but this is again one where we asked for a comprehensive solution before the certificate of occupancies were issued because there were some as-built changes. So that's what I'll segue into the applicant team to discuss what the as-built revisions were. But the end goal is to hopefully get these through the discretionary and then back through plan check again, and with the goal of eventually receiving the certificate of occupancy. There's some breaking news as of this afternoon. I did want to clarify for the record that this project was noticed as needing a modification because there was a change of use from the crawl space to conditioned space. It's now a storage room that Jarrett Gordon will review through the plan set. I was not informed till this afternoon that we did have an internal policy for some change of use interpretations when it's still residence to residence, and it no longer requires a modification. So that being said, because of the notice, we only advertise this as for comments only. So it will still remain as a comments only hearing, but I did want to let the board know that you do not need to make any comments on the modification because it does not need one.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come back to you in a minute for a procedural issue, but I forgot to have our applicant introduce themselves, please.
Hi, Jarrett Gorin from Vanguard Planning.
And I'm Sarah Bronstad with Vanguard Planning.
Thank you. Joe, Jessica, just to trail off and follow up on what you just said. So we can only make comments today. However, if the board has positive comments at this point, is that an action that we then can move in terms of final approval or approval after final or whatever the action is? Can we move that to a consent calendar?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, if you could go over what you're doing, please.
Great. So on that whole issue of enforcement, this case is probably, or the whole project up here is a poster child of that issue. We've been over it with every other house that's up here, and I think this is the last one out of everything. So these houses were all approved. It switched ownership, the project, a few times. The person that actually was responsible for building these houses made myriad changes in the field, some smaller, some bigger. And so when the inspectors were out doing, even though the inspectors approved all of these things when they were in framing and all that, when they subsequently came out for finals, then the same inspector decided to call out all of these differences. So we're back here getting all of the differences reviewed. And these have all been approved so far, but the one today, this will be the first time you guys have looked at it. And so Sarah has all of the details on what's changed here, and I'm going to let her walk you through that.
So this is Lot 3. It used to be 1704, now 1708, La Vista del Oceano. And majority of the changes are as similar to what you've seen on all the other houses, which primarily consist of material changes. So stucco in place of stone, and a different window spec and door spec. And I think it's probably best if we just look at each change as we flip through the pages. But before I do that, let me just run you through the street elevations. So because this property fronts this cul-de-sac and it slopes quite significantly, the front elevation is essentially just the front door. And then as you go around the corner here, down the driveway, or what's become a private road, here's the next photograph. And then here is where the gate is, which is represented in this photo. And then further down the driveway, this is the vantage that you see. And again, these walls and some of these changes for the landscape improvements were here previously. Okay, so just to flip through the plans.
Oh, and this is the canyon side elevation, which we had to get a drone out to shoot because it's that steep.
This is, yeah, and so this is a zoomed in photo of this, but this is essentially across the canyon view. So where all the clouds are on these plans primarily represent window changes, and often it was sizes or shapes that changed and the materials. The only added square footage includes this, there's a second story above, but this was considered crawl space due to its low ceiling height. And in construction, they decided they had the height to go ahead and make it a full height room, so it became a storage room. So the added square footage wasn't, an addition to the house. It was within the existing building envelope. The other added square footage is a result of just the wall thickness changes. What the architect specified was a thicker wall. The builder built a thinner wall, and so overall, the square footage of the house increased. There was a minor, powder room reconfiguration. Yeah, it's just materials.
A couple window sizes over here that changed a little bit.
The columns on this outdoor patio, which you can see in this photograph, were spec'd out to be wood beams and they're stucco columns. Here's the patio that I was just referring to. Yeah, there were more posts on that patio. Again, like I said, it's primarily material changes.
Katie, do we have the drawings that were approved?
Yes, Mr. Chair, put them just on your right side.
Oh, these
right here.
These pictures are.
Someone living in that house right now?
Yeah. Yeah, all of the houses were sold and occupied a long time ago under their temporary occupancy clearances.
I know we've talked about this before, but any changes that are incurred are imposed onto the current owner, right?
That's correct. It happened before that owner acquired the property, and they acquired it with the understanding that the house was inspected and signed off.
Mr. Chair, we've tagged the plans to have a
That's
note
with the
of
yellow
what-
sheet.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what really. Makes a huge difference.
Okay. So any other sheets to look at?
So this is the rear elevation, the front elevation, and one of the images on the west. So the other is the east elevation, which is facing that canyon, and it's very vegetated. It was, as you can see, this is the same vantage point, but this is how you would experience it if you were out in the canyon.
Okay.
So before we wrap up, and we've been over this on the last 5 of these, but there's a inclination to compare these to what was approved before, and then there's the other concept of comparing these as to whether or not they are compatible with homes in the surrounding neighborhood and area. And I would offer that those are 2 different standards, especially when it concerns the homes in the surrounding area. We believe these homes, as they are constructed, certainly they didn't go to as high of a quality in some of the detailing as they did on the original approval. However, the detailing, fenestration, everything else maybe is a step up from the existing homes in the immediate surrounding neighborhood, and excluding the other homes in this project. We're just talking about homes that you would see as you approach this project up Vista del Oceano, and we feel that these, even as they're constructed, are we believe they're compatible with all those homes. But that's how we would ask that your board look at this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Okay. All right, Chair will open it for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to address this project? Katie, as far as I know, or Kathleen, we received one, and I had it here a second ago.
There's two.
Two correspondents?
Yes.
Do I, oh, yes, there is a second correspondent. That one and this one, okay. So we had a correspondence from Bernie Bernstein, who was concerned about the FAR on the site. Wanted to make sure we went by and looked at the project. And then we had a letter from Elise Sari and Steve Young at 1632 La Vista Oceano. There is no house on that site, on that address. It's a blank lot, but what we discovered this afternoon is these are apparently the owners of the lot who wrote us from their New York address. So I don't know if that's information you want.
Where is this lot located?
Let me see if I can show you on this site. Where are we? It's hard to do on that little map. If you, always got to get my bearings. Okay, so if we're here and you go down this road, I think there is a lot here and a lot here, and I think it's this lot that's blank. And then there's a house here, there's a house here, and there's a house here, I think, if I recall.
So it's across that lane and
Yeah,
down.
it's on a site that I believe we've already looked at. If the folks that own this empty lot, if it's the same people, and I didn't do enough research, if it is, we've already looked at and approved, or at least given concept approval to a house for that lot.
That's the one empty lot that's
That's
left
the one
on
that-
as you drive up.
As you drive up, on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So they're basically objecting to the size of, any increase in the size of decks. And they may have been confused because of this street address thing. If you go out there today, here, let's use this. If you go out there today, this is identified at the gate as 1708. That's identified as 1704. In theory, their new house, which is yet to be built, might be able to see the decks out here, but that isn't the house we're talking about. It's this one.
Yeah.
So they may have been confused. So they may be confused. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's
The decks have not been changed.
on this house.
Not on this house.
And we already looked at that house.
Deal with that.
We already
so.
dealt with that house. Okay. So I think that's it. 2 comments, okay? Thank you. All right, let's bring it to the board for questions. Anyone have questions? Okay.
Well, I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll wait for comments. I have a comment.
Okay, well then let's go to comments. There's no questions. Joe?
We basically have dealt with a lot with this one.
This one,
and
that one, this
so-
one.
And having to do with
That one.
changing out windows from multi-lights to single lights. And we have approved, I think we have approved all of them
Right.
and allowed them to change into single. And the decks are not getting any bigger. And could you show me just a little bit of, you said you changed some rock veneer to some plastered.
Is that what we already
Well, I think
approved?
we still have the stone veneer on the stairs. I think there was some originally this is was this the previous approved elevation, or this is the existing this is the previously approved elevation?
Right.
So they had some more stone veneer on this one, and that's changed
Here.
to stucco. This staircase here still does have the stone veneer on it.
This has got stuff.
You put arches, looks like you put arches in too, or you took arches out and
Arches
put
went away.
square lintels.
That went away. That went away, that went away. It's supposed to look like that. There was supposed to be a little window there. There's supposed to be a casement, looks like a casement window there. That's not the case. And they took away the columns.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other comments?
Yeah, I have some. First, I want to express my extraordinary knowledge in architecture to impress you. But if you study the Parthenon, you know, the columns and how they created the Parthenon, they built several pre-temples to make it look right. It had a look that was proportionally correct. I'm kind of joking, but what really bothers me is the look of this and the missing column. It looks really uncomfortable. Now, I'm troubled with the fact that this new owner is stuck with having to pay for something the people had no idea that but architecturally, I think another column needs to be added there just for the balance. It just works better.
Well, it was always approved without the column, wasn't it? If this is the
No,
original.
it had them
No, they took
They
them out.
just took them out.
They took them out.
If you look at, this rendering doesn't even match this drawing that's on the sheet I just pulled out here, because these showed as wood columns. These now appear to be plaster columns, but there were 4 columns here.
They took
and there
2
were
of them out.
originally 4 columns there.
Yeah.
So they've taken out the columns and they put the plaster in here.
So if they had one column in the front, that would really look, I think that would fix that, but that's my comment.
Okay, other comments? I think I've already expressed my frustration with this whole process, and so I don't think I need to repeat myself. It's unfortunate that the new owners probably didn't clearly understand legitimate Spanish architecture, because you would never see anything like that. That's something you would see as a flying wedge in a piece of contemporary architecture.
Right.
And then we had somebody introduce all kinds of contemporary window systems, window fenestrations, and I know the argument's been made, well, there's other supposedly Spanish-style architecture on the same street that has contemporary windows and has Spanish-style roofs. Part of the problem is we're so used to this in this town of having good Spanish architecture. When we see bad stuff, we know it. Okay?
Yeah.
Right? And we got a whole set of houses that got touched really badly by somebody who just decided they knew more about architecture than anybody else. It's unfortunate. It's already there. It's done. The issue of the FAR that people are concerned about, that's finished. The Planning Commission approved this a long time ago. The ABR approved this a long time ago with the FARs. It gets exasperated on paper mathematically because of the infill in the basement. But it doesn't, the house is what it is. The overall issue in my mind is, and this little map shows it, we have projects here. We have Harbor Hills on the other side. We've just approved 2 huge homes on this side that look directly alike. You stand right here. You look straight at where those 2 houses are, and they're captured 2 houses above them. We have a big contemporary house that's been proposed and a big Spanish-style house proposed across the canyon. The issue is we're making this side of Santa Barbara, because of this development, the development down the street, and the development that's happening over off of Harbor Hills, we're making it our version of the big mansion issues, in my view, that many people are opposed to. And yet, here we are, and we're kind of stuck. And the city attorney has advised us there's no penalties anywhere. We can't go back and penalize the contractor who made the decision to do all this stuff or the previous owners, which apparently there were several. It becomes a burden on the current owners. We had an appeal ready to go on this house because these 2 owners wanted to sell. That's what's triggered this whole review, because nobody realized that it got not properly enforced, not properly observed by the building department, et cetera. So and I agree with the applicant's comment a few minutes ago, it's the poster child of things go wrong in big ways if people don't pay attention to what the work that this board does, that the HLC does, that the ABR does, and if we don't get support and enforcement on the other end of it, this is what happens. So we're kind of stuck. So having said that, the chair would look for a motion that would give comments and then a direction to whether or not this comes back to us as a full board or moves on to the consent calendar once staff has cleared the ability to give it a final decision.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
that we approve this project, or not approve it, we are giving it comments. I think we have already given it comments, as we have noticed that it's like all the other, there's not much we can say, not much more comments we can make other than the fact that you're doing what you're doing.
If I can direct the maker of the motion, maybe if you could give comments on supportability of the specific changes that they're requesting, the window changes and veneer changes.
I make a positive comment that we approve the window changes.
We can't approve today, maybe just support the
We
changes.
support, that's what I meant. We support the window changes, and we support the fenestration, or the fenestration windows, and the changes in stucco and
Material change.
and interior finishes, yes.
Right, is that your motion?
And bring it back to consent.
Oh. Right, so is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Okay, then you'll go to consent.
Thank you. Also, just a point of information for your board. The Rogers Tract out there is at this point, 'cause I worked on one of those projects across the canyon, and I'm familiar with the other one. And the way the Rogers Tract has shaped up, there really isn't, there's no possibility for additional homes up there at this point because everything has been merged or is being merged, and the remaining area really isn't enough for anybody to put together into a lot. So
You'd be surprised. Yeah. Wait 10 years.
Wait 10 years.
if the city changes the zoning, that's pretty much what would happen.
What have they been doing for 50 years?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Okay, let's go to item number 2, 1420. Oops, can we do that? Where are we at? 3:30, yes. 1426 Mountain View Road. This is here for project design approval. Project was last reviewed April 2nd, 2018, and in a moment, Brian will have comments. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Tracy Brunel, the architect for the project.
Okay,
Hi,
welcome.
Tracy.
Good job.
All right, and Brian, if you could share with us what our comments were from the April 2nd meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Number 1, restudy different window design on the second floor above the front door. Number 2, the board finds the size of the second floor deck acceptable. Provide the total square footage of the proposed second floor deck on the plans. Number 3, provide exterior lighting details. Number 4, provide a color board and any changes in window colors. Action taken by Motisha, seconded by Richards. Miller was absent.
Okay, thank you. So if you could share with us how you address those issues, please?
Yeah, I went back to the owner, and she is struggling with some kind of practical issues having to do with the way they're furnishing the inside and the way a vent is coming up for the forced area. And honestly, she got a little kind of frustrated with the process and not able to figure it out, and basically just said, look, let's just leave it as is and not go in circles on this. I may come back with a later phase and try to sort it out, but so that's not necessarily an ideal solution for me, but that's what they want to do.
So it's this window right there,
Yes.
which is that window up there.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a lost opportunity maybe for the view, but I don't think it's hurting anything, so hopefully that's a reasonable solution. I noticed in the comments that talked about second floor deck. I think the issue was this first floor deck.
Yes.
And the footage of that is on the cover sheet here. Let me read upside down here, but area, first floor deck, yeah, 300.
342 square feet, okay?
Can I read the minutes?
Okay,
And they still are undecided about the light fixtures. I want to try to pick that up when we come in for final.
okay. Anything else?
No, I think everything else is the same.
Okay. All right. Before we go to comments of the board, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Katie, did we get any comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chair will close public comment, bring it back to the board for questions.
Did we question, I seem to remember we had that window up there and over the
Right.
entry in question. Did we not like it? Or why was it?
Yeah, it was.
We had a different one that was kind of wide. The proportion wasn't great. It was sort of horizontal.
Would you like to see the previous set?
He had a horizontal window here that didn't look right.
And I think, Brian, you kind of made, somebody made a comment about that, didn't like, I mean,
I wasn't here.
and you were here, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
and we had a piece of the drawing that wasn't quite drawing correctly, so.
Yeah, there were a couple of things off in the elevations. Actually, you noticed.
Oh,
that,
I
too.
see, yeah,
So we-
yeah, some of the, I remember now, but,
And this was some of the heroes.
so you've decided just to leave it and not address it?
Right. They've got a
I-
tall headboard going there, so that prevents them from having a taller window, and they've got a problem with a vent stack if they try to open it, and so she just, like I said, kind of hit the wall. There's a lot of other stuff she's trying to figure out. And just said, let's just
Yeah.
leave it, and
The reason I'm asking is because I don't like that window that's existing. And I
Understand.
thought something could be done there.
I agree, but they're not asking for it to be replaced, and that's what
Yeah.
we're to be reviewing.
Okay. Fine.
another meeting I think we'll get to do.
All right, so one of my questions is, if you say you're coming back in another meeting, you're still trying to make your decision, then that may present complications for us to be able to move you along. So.
You mean for this?
Well, for that, or the light fixtures or anything, it's, if you're here to get approval on a set of drawings that have to go to the building department. And so if you have your client who is not able to make decisions as you go through this process, it's going to hold it up, because it'll hold us up from making a final decision.
Oh, that's my fault. I didn't realize we had to have the light fixtures at this
Well,
project
that-
design
that'll
thing
be,
confuses
that'll
me
be
a
up
little.
to the discussion of the board, but you see what I'm saying. If you share with us that your client is still thinking about things.
Well, she's thinking about the window, but
Right,
and
and-
we're assuming that he's going to come back within this. If he applies again, that's something.
Right, so what
No,
my.
no, we're not coming back within this. We need to consider that this is her decision.
Yeah, see what I'm getting at is
I'm letting you know
if we
that
gave him
I understand.
design approval today, then he comes back and makes another change, that may make a decision about whether it comes back to the full board or the consent calendar, or whatever, if it's still being gelled. Typically, what we try to do at this level to give you concept approval is generally kind of focus on, okay, all the pieces are in play, they all look pretty good, or they don't, or whatever, and then give you concept approval, and then you go off and do the details. And then it's up to this board whether they're comfortable about, like the light fixture at this point, can we let that go to the final, or do we want to see that now? But I'll leave that up to my fellow board members. So you see, that's the process,
Right.
okay?
We should consider this her final decision.
Okay, so just so you know that, we don't want to move you in one way or the other, but if timing is a problem, then you see what it does. It kind of holds things up.
Yep.
Okay?
Got it.
All right, other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. How did the board have a conversation about the cable railing
Yes.
and what was
Yes.
the determination?
And the determination was that because of the nature of where this house is and the surrounding areas, and I went down below and up and whatever.
Yes.
And given the nature of the type of architecture this is, it probably doesn't make a big deal of difference whether the things are vertical or horizontal.
Got it.
I think that's where the discussion was. Is that what everybody recalls?
Okay.
Okay.
What about the color board? Or are we going to look at
That
color
can
board?
come at final, but I think
Okay.
last time we talked about it, the colors of the house are going to kind of stay as they are, right? Correct?
Exactly the same. I think this rail would have an aluminum color is really about the only choice.
Yeah, because it actually does say color board on here.
Yeah. So we're still looking for a color board.
Yeah.
So again, there's kind of a couple of issues, but let me reserve that for comment. Let's finish questions. Any more questions?
No.
Okay, so let me go to comments, and just in case you're coming. The applicant would request project design approval. That allows him then to proceed to prepare working drawings. We just need to know at this point, are we satisfied, given his verbal direction on colors, whether or not we really need to see a color board now, or can we let the color board go to final? And the same discussion with regards to the light fixtures. And if maybe those are the only two issues that are still outstanding, and if it does come to final, then the other decision is, does the final come back to the full board, or does the final go to consent calendar?
I think the two things in question are minor enough that we can get them. We will get them before we get final. We can allow him to go through with design approval right now.
Okay. All right. Other comments? Okay,
Well, no, let me add to that. I think because of the FARs and considering the style of the house and the neighborhood, I think it's perfectly acceptable to have the color board and the light fixtures at consent, and have it go to consent, I think.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, then the chair would entertain a motion. Okay.
The board would like to give this project design approval, and we appreciate that you've changed the window on the second floor. Is that correct?
To keep it as is.
Oh, to keep it as is, and that when you return to consent, to please bring us a color board and a cut sheet or an example of the light fixtures you intend to use.
And where they're located. Let me see where they're located also.
Oh, and where they're located on the elevations
And on the plan.
and on plan.
Okay.
We'll need to make the MPO findings, please.
And this project meets the NPO findings, neighborhood preservation findings, that it has consistency in appearance with the scenic character of the city. It's compatible with the neighborhood. It uses quality architecture and materials, and it follows the good neighbor guidelines.
That's the motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Katie, before we go to a vote, procedurally, if for any reason his client decides they want to change that window on the second floor, is that a reapplication at that point, or is it a review after final?
If they decide to make the change before it gets final approval, we can just do a revised project design approval to incorporate that change. If they decide after it's gotten final approval, they can do a review after final because it was within the scope of the original project.
Okay, thank you. So do you understand what that is? Okay. All right. Any other comments to the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay. We'll see you at consent calendar.
Thanks for doing a fine meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Goes back to Katie. Whoops. This goes to Katie. Okay. Oops, where are we? Item number 3, 1346 Manitou Road. Okay, welcome. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm David Winitsky, and with me is Louis Manring. He's the owner of the project.
Welcome.
I think the best way to start would be with the,
Just before you start, we have some comments from our last meeting that Mr. Miller will read.
Okay.
You have those yet?
Oh, that's old.
This is
No comments or minutes? Okay, there exist concerns regarding the proposed height and colors Number 2, additional landscape screening may help soften the appearance of the proposed galvanized stormwater storage tank.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now share with us where you are, please.
Can I have the photo sheets? I see 2 of them, the last 2.
These are all of them, so take your pick.
The project is on Manitou Road, but it's off a private drive. There are about 5 properties we pass through to get to it on a road that winds up and then onto the property at the top of the hill. This was a Tier 3 stormwater management project. Because of the hillside, we did significant improvements to the house and an addition. And this stormwater tank is simply the last component of the stormwater management system that we proposed. Basically, the water gets pumped up to a location here where the stormwater tank is, and it spills when it's full to a rain garden, which then spills to a subterranean detention and infiltration area. Originally, we had proposed a 15,000-gallon storage tank, which is in these photos here, superimposed on the locations where it is. We built a concrete base to receive the tank. Originally, we were just going to do a 5,000-gallon tank, which we're allowed to do without a permit. And we decided that we might as well maximize it because the location was one that was not easily seen from adjacent properties. So I did a series of photographs starting at the southern point at the height of our original 17-gallon tank. So from the top of the tank, this is a view south. I may have these out of order here. View south, and then every 45 degrees moving to the west and originally back to the original position. So these 8 photos show that basically you cannot see the tank from adjacent neighbors except for our uphill neighbor, which is this one. And we have a letter from them which we'd like to read to the board in support of the tank and in support of our efforts, actually, for stormwater management. So these photographs show the existing base that's in there. And may I read this to the board? I'm writing in support of my neighbors, Marianne Marcy and Louis Manring, to place a large stormwater storage tank on their property. It appears as though this tank may only be visible from my property since it is well screened by existing trees and landscaping from other properties in the area. I'm aware of the location and size of the tank and grateful that they have done what they have done to minimize the visual impact by location and design by placing it partially below grade. The work they've done already has been a significant improvement to their home, property, and our community. I greatly appreciate that they're willing to commit the space and financial resources to help offset our extreme drought conditions and precious water reserves while significantly reducing the storm drainage off our hill. We will all benefit from their efforts, and they should be assisted in any way possible to achieve their plans. So originally this was scheduled for consent. A couple of weeks ago, we were on the consent calendar, and we presented the 15,000-gallon tank, which is shown in these photographs, superimposed in the location where it is. We received, well, actually, we didn't receive any support for the 15,000-gallon tank because of the height, even though it can't be seen. And even though we talked about doing additional screening, which I'll talk further about today. Discouraged at this and also needing just to move forward. We've been in this process quite a while. What we're presenting today is a scaled-down version of a 9,000-gallon tank, same location, and it's a galvanized storage tank, and it's simply reduced in height by 7 feet. And so if we look at the sections, The 9,000-gallon storage tank is about 10 feet 10 inches at the lower elevation in height, and at the upper elevation, it comes above the existing grade by about 5 feet 8 inches. What is shown on the site plan, which actually is not shown on this site plan, it's my error. We've got a layer that didn't print on this. We're also proposing 17 5-gallon Catalina cherry trees on 3 sides of the tank, which basically will come around all the sides that could possibly be seen if the oak trees were ever removed or died. And so those get planted about 18 inches from the base and then would provide a screening hedge for the areas that would be open through the oak trees if they didn't exist. That's all I have. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to questions, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the project? Katie, did we get any correspondence other than the letter from the neighbor?
No, Mr. Chair. However, you did ask me to check in with the Creeks Division staff regarding this type of proposal. I reached out to Jim Rumley in the Creeks Division, and I'll read you his response. He said, they see these proposed frequently. They're particularly useful for meeting requirements on steep hillside properties where concentrated infiltration is not a great idea. Many homeowners like them because they can use the stored water for irrigation of landscaping. The stormwater tanks or cisterns can be installed underground as well. It is also possible to install several smaller cisterns or tanks. What's important is that the total capacity of water stored meets or exceeds the Tier 3 retention volume requirement.
Okay, thank you. So just to follow with it, right on that with a question, and maybe I didn't, maybe you shared that and I don't remember. Your stormwater tier that you did
Yes.
indicated that you should have a minimum of 5,000 gallons?
No, the tier didn't indicate any storage.
Okay, so that wasn't the requirement of the tier analysis?
No,
This
it
is
is
above
not.
and beyond.
This is above and beyond?
This is beyond that.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
It's simply our intent to capture as much as we can.
I understand, okay. That's why I wanted to make sure we were clear on that. Okay. Other questions?
Yeah, could you paint the tank?
We could paint the tanks. It's a challenge painting galvanized
That's what I was wondering.
metal, as we all know from experience. It also adds about $3,000 to the cost. The owner has invested a substantial sum because we're on a hillside and because of the water capacity of the tank and the capacity of the base. You know, we have 4 caissons that are 15 feet deep and $25,000 worth of concrete just to make a base for a tank.
Wow. Okay.
Where's the entry to off the street?
Well,
Way down over here.
it's way down.
You got to go up.
Way
Up
down
here,
below.
and
You
but
go past 3, I think it's 3 other houses?
Is
We
it
got-
it's at the end of the street?
It's at the end of this little road,
Road, and that's the road right up there.
The entrance then comes in.
the little narrow road.
Can you see it from, as you approach off onto the property?
Off the
Can you
private
see the
drive?
tank?
Yes, but the only person that would do it, oh, no, you
There.
About right
you
there.
can't see
You
it
have-
until you're further on the property, right?
Okay.
You can't see it from the private drive.
Other questions? That's fine. I have a question. Let's see, you said how many plants here?
17. They're
17?
about 3-foot centers.
3-foot centers, okay. So my question to my landscape colleagues, what he's proposing, will that screen it in some sufficient way?
Yes, that's a very good choice. It's a native, and it will grow dense, and it will grow tall, and it will screen your tank. Good one.
So then, to follow up the question, since you know what these things look like and how big they get, and what color they are, and so forth, if the applicant doesn't paint the tank and leaves it galvanized, is that satisfactory in your view? Oh, Robert's not here, okay, so I'm looking at Lisa, okay, all right.
I got a
Okay.
question. Where's
Yes.
you have 3 neighbors there. Which is the neighbor
This is
that
the neighbor.
That
who wrote the letter?
Right.
Right up there. This one can't see it at all?
They're down below.
Or
They
way
can,
down below.
they
Way
can
down
see it
below.
up through the
Yeah.
trees if they look hard.
In 2 years, no one's going to know it's there, and plus galvanized fades anyway. So.
And with the kind of plants that you're talking about.
Yeah, it'll be obscured. 5-gallon plants will obscure it
So you-
within a couple of years. If they are irrigated, you must irrigate them, even though they're a native. They do require irrigation until they're established, so first 3 years.
That's what thing's for.
We kind of liken
Yes.
it to the pet that's carrying its own water bottles, a
Yeah.
storage tank.
Like that.
Carry the water for the.
Okay, let me ask, you are asking for the tall one or the short one? The short one.
The 9,000 gallon.
9,000.
Just to, I happen to be doing a tank right now for a client in a cabin up at Lake Nacimiento, and he's got to have a 5,000-gallon tank. That's a 5,000-gallon tank to scale. That's 1/8-inch scale, so there's a 6-foot-high person. This is a shorter diameter, so it makes the tank 13 feet high. But you buy, these can be bought because they come in on a truck. So just, that's a comparison. His tank is now going to be 10 feet high, so it's somewhere down like here, like that.
Gotcha.
It's wider, it's got a bigger diameter, but it's much lower.
base.
At 9,000 gallons, excuse me. Okay, other questions? Okay, so, Katie, does this go through the same process of concept and final?
It would need project design and final approval, yes.
Since we don't have the landscape plan, we may not want to give it concept and final today. We could give it concept and final in 2 separate actions. We can do the final at consent if you so desire, or we can do final here. But I would recommend that we, if the board does desire to give it concept approval, that we do that today and then take a different action for the final approval.
I'll make a motion.
Okay?
I move to give this project design approval to come back to consent with a complete landscape plan showing the plantings to surround the water tank.
Okay. And I would encourage the maker of the motion to indicate that the board has approved the galvanized tank in color.
Yeah, the board has approved the color to be galvanized and it's a 10,000 gallon?
9,000 gallon.
9,000 gallon tank.
Okay? That's your motion?
Yes.
Oh, if you can make the MPO findings, please.
The consistency in appearance is consistent with the scenic character of the city and the area that it's located. The compatibility of the development is such that you don't see it from the public views of the street. The quality of materials is appropriate, and good neighbor guidelines were followed.
Okay. I would also suggest, just so it gets into the record, in case anybody comes back and says, why did they do this, that you include language that the board looked carefully and considered the immediate adjacent neighbors and the view from those properties. Oh, did you catch that, Kathleen? Okay. All right, that's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Okay, is there further discussion to the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. Okay, so when you get all that put together, you're at consent calendar.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Oops. These are yours, Katie?
Yes. Kathy, do we have a phone number for Chris Patel? Line from here.
Where are we? 4:40. Oh, we're ahead of schedule, right? No, excuse me, 4:10. 9:45, we're right on time. 945 Arbolito Road. Well, let's recess until the applicant shows up. Okay?
Call the.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm trying to compare them to.
Okay. The chair will reconvene the Monday, April 16th, 2018 Single Family Design Board. We're on item number 4, 945 Arbolado Road. This is a new item, new project. Any action may be taken if sufficient information is provided, and because it's a new project, I need to read into the record the project description. This is a proposal for additions and alterations to an existing 2,540 square foot, two-level single residential unit with an existing 387 square foot two-car carport. The proposed project includes 250 square feet of additions to the upper level, 564 square feet of additions to the lower level. Other site improvements include a new covered entry porch, an interior remodel, approximately 1,118 square feet of new decks, and converting the existing two-car carport to a two-car garage. Proposed total of 3,745 square feet of development on a 15,811 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 86% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. Welcome. If you could introduce yourselves, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Cottrell, Architects.
Eddie Glassgold.
Joanne Lynn.
Homeowners.
You're the owners, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So if you could show us what you intend to do.
Yes. So the board saw this project probably about a year ago. It has since been sold, and the Glassgoldlands purchased it. So we have a new project, but it did come through here last year. It is this is the back of the house, this is the front of the house, 1957 construction. It was a contractor build, so it was a box with a carport. So here's the carport. This is from the street. It's appears to be a single-story residence, but the hillside drops down to 20% average slope on the lot. So on the back of the house, it is a two-story house. Part of the proposal is to enclose the existing carport and make that a two-car garage, which is a similar thing we did on the last round. And then to clean up the aesthetics of the house. So from the street, and I'll walk you through some of this, we've got a very steep driveway that you could not build to City of Santa Barbara standards today. Arbolado Road on the north. Let's show you just a quick section right here. Okay, so here's the property line. This is Arbolado Road. It's a 6-foot person. Here's a section through the house. So we've got carport above living space, and then the site obviously drops down. This is the 30-foot building line. So the site doesn't have a lot of flat space. There's just not a lot of habitable outdoor space that's flat, hence the need for some additional decks. So the existing house, existing house has a thin 3-foot deck across the back. That was interesting, but it's totally not functional. And then there was a little pocket of deck here. So just for reference, here's the carport, here's the entry, and then this is the downstairs space that was an unfinished basement. So our proposal is to do a few minor additions on both the front and the back to make it a livable house, and then add some flat area. And there is a pool going in. The landscape plan is being developed, so next time we come, we'll come with a fully developed landscape plan for review. Okay. I'm going to start on the ground level and then work myself down. Okay, so a little addition at the entry to give a little bit of a foyer. And then to make this bedroom habitable, we've got 13.5 by 10.6. We just did a bump. So there's a little volume add there. We infilled this corner, that back corner, and then did a small little 120 square foot add to make the master suite work. And then added this is a covered deck, this section right here. It's 473 square feet. It makes this living room really open up to the here's a view of that window. So they have an incredible view. This would pocket, living room connects to covered outdoor space. Then the master's got a little deck, sitting deck as well. Like I said, the garage gets converted to a carport, and we are adding a couple of columns. Sorry, carport is getting converted to a garage. Thank you, Eddie. And then downstairs, we've got an interior stair winding down to a media room, gym, home office, and some storage and craft rooms, and one more bedroom. So this is all, in grade. This is cut in here. This is the back of this right there. Elevation-wise, we're taking the house in a sort of contemporary direction. We've got currently there's a concrete tile roof. We're switching to a standing seam roof. And a opaque garage door. So here's the idea. I know that these have come up before and we've discussed these quite a bit. The concept with this is to do opaque glass, so the light is it's not the beacon that is a concern on the street, but we're still getting that contemporary look. Color scheme wise, we're looking at doing a dark window, a lighter stucco, and then a dark gray roof. We just have a start at the color scheme here, but that would be probably go with a little lighter gray roof, darker windows, and then dark railings. This is going to be a steel railing, dark railings and light fixtures. So, Eddie, Joanne, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, and you realize that the square footage that we're adding, a lot of it is internal. It's already in the house.
That's
It's
right.
not
The
like-
basement is the majority of the
Converting
increase.
the basement
Yeah.
to habitable.
And you already said the standing seam was going to be more of a lighter gray, softer, so it's,
That's right.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Presentation, thank you. Okay, before we go to questions and comments from the board, we'll open to the public. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Oops. Oh, that's because my microphone fell down. Sorry. Okay, Katie, did we get any written correspondence other than the 2 letters I have so far?
Just the 2 in front of you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We did, I don't know whether the applicant has seen these. I believe they arrived today.
We have, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay. So there's one that talks about the use of some adjacent driveway. So that's really not the purview of this board. That's up to you, between you and the adjacent property owner. However, there is an item here about the no parking sign that I'm sure is there, was probably there when you folks bought the house.
Yes.
Okay. It's really not appropriate.
That wasn't put up by us, but.
Okay, understand. So it needs to be taken down?
Sure.
We have, you
Absolutely.
see these on APS all over the place,
Yeah.
or not APS, the Riviera. People are under the misunderstanding that those are their own private property. It's not, because there's your property line right at the wall, okay? So that's public property. Anybody can park there. So when they do come to our attention, we ask residents to remove them.
We'll do it immediately.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's that letter. The other letter is from the adjacent owner here, and they're concerned about the location of the outdoor decks and the height of, or extension of the roof line. And in a minute, we'll ask some questions on that. And I don't know why they weren't noticed the last time around on the other project, but be that as it may, they've been notified this time, so that's their comments. Everyone has seen the letter? Okay, thank you. Anything else, Katie, that we know about?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions.
That picture looks like somebody rounded the whole back end of the house.
Yeah, it's a panoramic. This one?
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, so this,
No, this one.
that is a pano as well, just
Where's
to
the
get it
corner?
all.
Where's the corner?
With the corner of the house? So this is that long deck that you're seeing
That's
both
the
sides
long
of.
deck.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gonna look-
Thank you.
Front house doesn't match the back of the house.
Yeah.
So that's one long deck.
Yep.
Okay. And you're enclosing that back area. Sorry.
Where are you going to go?
That one or
Keep
the
going.
other one, if you-
You're enclosing this, which had a deck before, And this is the person who is writing about their deck is
Yeah, but this is down,
infringing.
this is the lower level, correct?
Right.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is it. So this is at the bottom.
That's right.
So you're adding a deck to the top.
That's over in this corner somewhere, probably right there. Okay? And then they're taking this deck off and adding a deck on the top on the next level. They're adding a deck on this first level. You see how it's dropping?
Yeah.
Okay,
You're
so
adding
they're
a deck on the lower level, and you're enlarging the deck on the top level.
This deck on the lower level, oops, is
14 deep.
1/4-inch scale. Okay, 14 feet, and the top one is 14 feet.
Both coming out supporting by the same columns.
Okay?
See,
So you're not really.
Well, go back and look at, oops, right here. One of the questions I'm going to have is, where are these persons' windows? If you look at the Google Earth site of this, which I did this morning, there appears to be a deck on this property here. The houses are set where they're set. They're not, these folks aren't adding anything new in terms of the general shape of the house in relationship to this house, but I don't know where the windows are in terms of the privacy issues that.
Are the houses basically the same level?
And the.
They're higher up over here, that's.
Higher up.
And this, whoops, what scale? 10 inch. This new proposed staircase appears to be somewhere between 13 and 14 feet from the property line. And this deck appears to be 10 feet from the property line.
This is the pool down at grade.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm up there.
that's
Oh,
the- yep.
well, 10 feet, excuse me, up there. Yep, I see, right.
Seems, yeah, the
And
house.
this has a cover over the top of the top deck. Okay, so what does the elevation look like?
Second to last.
A lot of pages to flip around, right?
Oh, okay, there, okay, so that's what it is. Okay, is there no truss in here? These are going to span
It's
like
going to be
this?
steel. Yeah, it's going
So
to be
this is steel
monoframe.
span?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right. And there's a little 3D just to help see that too. That's the entry.
Pool is existing.
No, you're going to
Proposed.
put,
Yeah.
you're going to put it. Okay. So Katie, a question to you. Is the pool and what appears to be a wall, et cetera, is that under our purview? Do we have
It
to-
would be, but I wasn't notified of the pool under the previous plans.
I think we call it under separate permit. So
Okay,
I just
so-
wanted to show sort of the
So
connection.
this is going to come
So
to us
that's under a
separately.
separate permit, then, so don't review that.
Thank you. Okay, other questions?
So you're proposing a standing seam metal roof,
Yes.
and that is a gray in color.
Yes. Medium tone gray. Yeah.
Not dark, actually, so it's less obvious.
Other questions?
We're going to talk about the elevation of that comes later. The next door is higher.
I'm sorry, I didn't go and look at it, but.
Comment.
Clarify. Yeah.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, let's go to comments.
You're raising the plate 2 feet, so it's a 10-foot plate.
That's correct.
So my comments, I'm a little uncomfortable with the standing metal seam. I don't think it's appropriate for this already established neighborhood. I think the plate should be lowered to 9 feet maximum because of that also. And I can't support the translucent garage door. I could see a row of windows in the top, but as a fully translucent garage door, I can't support that at this time. I'm also a little uncomfortable with this very large span here, especially when you look at your 3D model. Looks very, I think this needs to be a little more developed, maybe with a, what's that word I want to use?
Collar tie.
Not a collar tie, well, yeah.
Okay.
What is it? Beam with a, what is that called? It's, thank you, a truss. Sheesh. So anyway, those are my comments.
A comment?
I'm gonna follow up. Lisa, you've got a comment? I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to follow up and say I agree that the standing seam in this neighborhood is not appropriate. There are not any in close proximity that I know of.
Okay. And you recall, I brought this to your attention, this standing seam roof? You might recognize this standing seam roof.
I did. Is that on Santa Barbara Street?
Yes.
Yeah, I vetoed that one too.
Yeah. So Yeah, I too am not going to support a standing seam roof of any color, and nor a garage with obscure lights. And the other thing that I was just measuring that doesn't fall into the guidelines of our guidelines in the book here is the guidelines clearly state that we need to consider the 15-foot setback from the property line to the edge of any deck or balcony. And right now, that's what I was measuring a minute ago. Right now, we're at 10 feet, and we're at 13, 14 feet on this side with the staircase, which I would consider part of the deck. So I think that would have to get adjusted. My other comment is we have a whole Riviera where we had homes built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with these big, huge, long decks all the way across the front. And that, in my view, is a real detriment to our city. We see all of these homes across the city. Part of the reason Santa Barbara looks the way it does is that we make very careful decisions about what we see. If I look out, the shade's closed today, but if I look out that window, I can look right up at these houses. So I understand that you want to have outdoor space and the side is steep, but a big, broad deck all the way across the front, in my view, is just not, it's a very clumsy way to achieve it.
The back of the house.
The back of the house, okay? So I
Not
think
the front,
there's
the back.
many other ways to deal with it. Also, I think what you're going to find, given the way the sun moves across the city, that this solution is really not going to serve you well. I think that the rake needs to come in this direction. I don't necessarily think it has to be a truss. I mean, I know where you're coming from, but if he's going to do a very contemporary welded steel joints structurally, you know, he's certainly welcome to do that, but I think this is inappropriate to the elevation and certainly doesn't really help the sun. I know you showed shades and shadows here, but the way the sun travels, those windows are going to bake. That isn't going to help your effort here to have a nice, cool balcony. So
It's out 14 feet.
Yeah.
That whole cover is out 14.
Out 14, but still
beyond
that high, you're
defenestration.
still going to, even at December, you're going to get low sun. So I'm concerned about that. I think that the front's fine, with the exception of the garage doors.
The only thing I'd say, Fred, about mine is when you look at this,
Yeah.
you're looking up. I don't know that just.
Yeah, and you're looking up. So I'm not satisfied that resolves the issue. I think that needs more study. The other concern I have is, and we've run into this a lot of times, what would be very helpful is for you to at least some way indicate where the windows are, even if we just get a photograph of what this side looks like, and I realize there's a hedge here. That also is important to let us know where that hedge is. It looks like it's on your property versus their property. We do have a hedge height ordinance, which allows you to keep that hedge at 8 feet. You can grow it to 12 feet with a review by this board, but I think we need to see what your intent is there, because that certainly might address the concerns these folks have written in about. So if we know where this is, where the windows are, that might help us clearly understand what's going on.
Mr. Chair, that if I could, that hedge
Is that?
Yeah, that's it.
Is that the hedge or is that the trees?
That's the hedge.
And is that hedge on this property?
It's both. It's
Isn't it more ours based on the survey?
So one of the things then I would ask is part of our process here is to get both neighbors to agree on the height of the hedge.
I'd also just like to comment, if it does exceed 8 feet, they have to apply for a minor zoning exception, which we would need to renotice the project and include that in the description, so.
And then it comes to our board for our review. So having dialogue, what we found, and we've only been doing this for the last, 3, 4 months, 6 months, when this new ordinance went into play, is what we found to be most successful is that the two neighbors can sort it out and agree to, yes, it's above 8 feet, I could live with it, whatever, and then we can review it and get that documented so that it goes with the house, with the property. So that decision is with the property. So in the future, as people change, then, you know, that the hedge thing is taken care of. That may address the issues that are in the letter, but I just don't have that information yet. I think that the general style is probably acceptable. The you know, color scheme that you're talking about is probably acceptable. The other thing that we're going to want to look at, especially as we do in all, particularly houses on the Riviera, is the exterior lighting. What does a light fixture look like? We have a dark sky requirement, so we pay attention to that. So that'll be something we want to see. And then certainly how you deal with high fire, how this deck is built in terms of the construction, and I'm sure, you know, you'll go through that process with the building department. Okay, are there other comments? Okay, if there are no other comments, then the applicant probably needs some direction. We certainly could give it project design approval today. We could not give it project design approval today. We could not give it with comments. We could give it with comments, and they're certainly not in a position to get final today. So,
I'll make a motion.
yes.
I propose we give this project design approval with the following comments to come back to us, to full board.
Yes.
Brian's shaking his head.
Continue the project.
Didn't you say?
You may not get support for giving it design approval. I think that's what he's saying.
Okay.
I know where you're going, but I think you want to continue the project.
Okay, I'll continue the project
With comments.
with the following comments
Yeah.
to the full board. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. That the board would like you to restudy the roof material because standing seam metal is not consistent with the general
Established neighborhood.
established neighborhood, that the opaque glass garage door need be restudied as well. Maybe the top lights could be opaque glass, but consider the rest of it to be wood. That you take the no parking sign down immediately. You return to us with lighting, and that you remove the deck out of the side yard setbacks so it's not encroaching beyond 15 feet. And that you work with your neighbors to figure out what hedge height you can settle on, and we'd like to see window locations when you return as well.
Okay. Did you put a comment in about the restudy the configuration of the upper roof deck cover?
No, but I will adopt
North on this.
Fred's comment about
On
restudying
the south elevation.
South elevation.
the south elevation roof configuration. Sorry.
Okay. All right, and that, probably just to be clear, so we remember what we do, would you add to your motion that the board understands that the proposed pool will be coming under a separate application?
Yes, that the proposed pool is a separate permit.
Okay, let's get a second to that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's seconded. Now discussion.
Yeah, would the
Right.
maker of the motion like to change the garage door material to be something alternative to opaque, not necessarily it has to be wood?
Yes.
Okay, so that's acceptable to the
Alternative
seconder?
material
As an amendment to the
to
motion?
opaque.
Okay. All right, is there further discussion to the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions? We have one opposition? Okay, abstentions? Okay, so carried, and we'll see you back here. Okay. All right. Let's go to,
Chris.
overlooked, did they give you the
Chris,
little
Chris, let me
diagram?
ask a question. Is that
Are you
extension of the
beyond the
master bedroom
300
on the
feet?
first
You know?
top floor, all the way down?
It's up to you.
Or it sticks out?
And
all the way
I
down?
will
I didn't notice.
Let's wait till this moves out, and then I'll share with you.
Can we hear that?
Okay,
comment?
excuse me.
Because
The item's closed. I have to move on to the next item, please. Okay. So we're going to go to item number 5, 1633 Overlook Lane. Okay. Now, we have an item here that one of our members believes may be a conflict because of the location of her home. And so, Jan, let me just share with you. We have the requirement under state law that you have to excuse yourself if the property is within 300 feet. However, if you're, as a neighbor, uncomfortable, you can excuse yourself from the room. I can tell you what I do. My little rule of thumb for me personally, just to make sure there is no conflict at all whatsoever, is I use 1,000 feet. Okay? I've talked to the city attorney. He basically says, as an individual member of the board, you can make that determination. By state law, you have to do the 300 feet. If, however, you have, as a member of the board, some level of comfort or uncomfort with the item, then you can excuse yourself. You just have to read into the record that you are excusing and why.
So I'm going to excuse myself
Okay.
because of location.
Okay, all right, thank you. So let the record show that we have one more that will step aside for this item, and we'll look for your return when we get to the next one, item number 5. So we're on item number 5. This is 1633 Overlook Lane. This is a new item, so this is here for comments only. Still requires staff hearing officer review, and I think we'll get an explanation from staff as to why. But because it's a new item, I need to read into the record the project design description. This is a proposal to construct a 597 square foot lower level addition to an existing 3,612 square foot two-level single-family dwelling with a detached 529 square foot two-car garage. The proposed project includes 597 square feet of expanded roof decks above the additions, as well as minor door and window alterations. Staff hearing officer review is requested to allow the unpermitted pergolas to encroach within the required front yard setback. The proposed total of 4,738 square feet of development on a 24,817 square foot lot located in the Hillside Design District is 100% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Al Windsor. I actually work for Tom Meany, and he is out sick.
Okay.
Today, unfortunately.
All right. So if you could share with us what you're doing.
Well, essentially, we designed this house a number of years ago, and the owners want to basically...
Oops. Need to speak into it.
Yeah, get into the...
Oh, sir.
Sorry.
The owners would like to bump out the house in 2 locations, and actually it only adds about 600 square feet of deck above. Basically, we'd be getting rid of these arbors, which were added later by the owner, and we'd bump this out about actually 18 feet from the end of the wall here. And then on the other end of the house, we were going to bump out about 8.5 feet. And so we will match the materials exactly, and above there's going to be a gym and an office down below, which will be accessible from below, actually from the stairs. And there's going to be a master bedroom extension on the 2nd floor. Right now, the 1st floor, which we're calling first floor, is almost like a daylight basement. So we'll go to the plans here. Of course, here's Alameda Project Sarah. Here's Overlook. A number of the photos here. This is probably the most important one. 13 is here looking up towards the house. And then this other image here is looking actually up the driveway. Which is
right here?
Up the driveway, yeah. Can't see upside down. We're looking at the gate.
Okay. There, and then this is the other side right there.
Yeah. So essentially, we're just bumping the house out a little bit. It's going to add about, functionally, about 600 square feet. Looking down the footprint. And the master bedroom upstairs will be pushed out slightly. And again, it's important to note that, again, the first floor is really almost a daylight basement. So this is the existing configuration. These stairs now will be used to access the office here, and this will be a gym. And then above that will be the decks will be enlarged in 2 spots. So fairly simple. If you look at the elevations, it really doesn't change a whole lot. We're going to match the same doors and iron railings, same deck material, the tile, same colors. Let's go back to actually the floor plans. So this area right here, right now the foundation wall is basically right here. So this would be a new office down below, and again, it's there's a deck above it right now covering about to here, and there's an exterior fireplace right here, and this is all deck all the way to here. So essentially what we'll be doing is we'll be adding a deck over this portion and over this portion here. So this is functionally about 18 feet. This is about 8.5 feet. Same stairs.
Enlarging the deck.
Enlarging, yeah, just pushing them out. And then upstairs what happens is we're pushing this master bedroom wall out, and then the deck again is going out about 8.5 feet from there. Again, same materials. Now there's 2 pergolas that are going to be, we're trying to get permitted that were installed years ago without a permit. So it'd be good if we could keep that separate, but I'm not sure how the city would like to do. Nope. Okay.
It's all being done at once. So
Okay.
can you show us where the pergolas?
Yes.
Pergolas were, please?
I really cannot see upside down. So the pergolas are right here. So here's where we're doing the addition here, and these are the pergolas right here.
Okay. Is that it?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Katie, did we get any correspondence?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. The chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions.
Yeah, I'm still coming.
Katie, I have one question. It says project requires staff hearing officer review. What's that for?
It's for the 2 pergolas, Mr. Chair. So those are in the front setback, so they require approval by the staff hearing officer.
Okay, and
to remain.
There's no indication of what the front setback is? What's that distance? Do you know?
Maybe that might.
It's on another
Are you
sheet?
looking at the topo?
There's a setback line. Here's the pergolas.
It says setback line is here. So that's 30 feet from the center line?
Yeah.
So, or is there something else we're supposed to be looking at? See if it says 30
Is it not
feet.
30?
It's not measured from the center line of the street. It's supposed to be.
Is this property lines are out here or from the street line? We don't know.
It's measured from the edge of pavement.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Not the center line of the street.
Okay, and it's 30
It's measured from the end of the right of way, which is here.
What's the square, I just want to see how much of the, I don't think the whole pergola.
1/20.
I think about 5 years ago.
So the edge of paving is,
here.
that's the edge of
That's the
this.
edge of the right of way, which is where we measure the setback.
Oh, okay.
That's 30.
So 30 feet is here. So in essence, it's not all of the pergola, but a portion of the pergola is. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. Okay. So, and then You had a photograph a second ago. Down here. Over that corner. Okay, so that stone, and these are basically in the same plane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's 18 feet that you're coming up. I know you want to use the 8-foot mark, but it's really 18 feet from this corner and 8 feet from here.
Yeah, 8.6.
All right, other questions?
I'm a little confused, just a little bit. This is a site plan.
Yes.
And the shaded area is the residence.
This, yep.
And what is the new? What is the new on there that you're adding? It is not there.
No, it's
not there.
Showing on, yeah, it's showing on the next
it's on the site plan here.
basically that area right there and this area right here.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So in the footprint, we're adding about 600 square feet. But we're basically, right now, like where the fireplace is, this comes back, we're going to be actually pushing the wall, demoing part of the wall of the master bedroom to make the master bedroom larger, and then they'll have their own deck out here.
Well, I'd like
And
to
that
see
deck,
a site plan with, doesn't show it.
That's what's confusing. Okay,
Well,
let's
That's
go,
what's
can we go to
confusing.
the,
There's no site plan that shows that.
go to the floor plan?
No.
I have to look at the site plan, which is an existing site plan and then I have to go to the floor plan to see what's.
Demo.
Okay, so what's really happening is you're coming out 8 feet, so the deck it goes over this whole thing. So where's the next floor? So that wall is basically where it is today.
Right.
That's what's shown in the photograph.
Right.
And this wall is basically where it shows today, where the stone shows.
Correct.
Correct? So they're adding 18 feet out from that wall. So that's a new deck and a new first floor room of some sort. Whatever it's. So there's a master bedroom that'll open up and okay. And so, whoops, that's without it, that's with, okay, so there's a deck, there's this new room on the bottom, the same thing more or less going on.
Room on the bottom and a deck on top.
And a deck on top.
Okay. All right.
Okay, other questions?
On these two round, for the elevations, they look like
They're going away.
they're going away. They're
going away.
trellises or
Yeah.
whatever they are. They're going away.
They're for sale.
Katie, I have a question.
We're going away? I'm sorry.
What?
It's round arbors.
The ones in the existing pictures where
This
they look like
eyebrow
they're.
Katie, I have a question. Down here in walking the site on the street, there is a rock wall that's here now. And then it bumps up right here. This little element, I don't think it's actually exactly like this survey or sketch shows. There's, the wall actually goes like that. So my question is there a height limit restriction from a zoning standpoint? Because this is within,
Within 10 feet from the front lot line, it can't exceed 3.5 feet in height. So that needs to be called out on the plans.
within 10 feet.
Within 10 feet of a front lot line, it
So
can't
if it's
exceed
10 feet
3.5
or greater, then it doesn't.
It can be 8 feet.
Okay, then that answers my question, because it looks like it's right on the 10-foot line, so that, I think then it's okay. That was my question, just visually looking at it. Okay, thank you. All right, other questions? Do we have a drawing of these pergolas?
No.
Do they show in a section somewhere?
No, they partially show it in the photograph.
They only, right now, on this set of drawings, they only show in the photograph.
Yeah.
There's not a drawing here. Okay. All right. Okay, other questions? Let's go to comments.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd say my comment is, I think it's acceptable, but listening to you and Joe and my own observations, it's difficult to understand what's new and existing.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. It's hard to understand it because there's not enough there to tell us what's happening, and your drawings are not tied together. when you have a sheet for sheet for sheet for sheet, but you have to go from one sheet to that, and
Yeah.
and if you were going to build it like that, your contractor would be
Yeah.
blown away.
Other comments? I just want to bring to the board's attention a couple of things. I can get to that. I'll come back to that. As you may recall, we reviewed and approved a house on this site during this last year, I believe. It went through several reviews, probably 4 or 5 meetings.
Is that the big?
That's the big one.
Big one.
And then it was going to be appealed by these neighbors. And then at the last moment, the appeal was dropped. Not sure why, but apparently these two neighbors got together and made a deal. So my question to the applicant, this doesn't appear to me to be too over the top in terms of what your client is asking for, but given the controversy that we went through with this project, do you know if this person has had any conversation with this person that they're aware that this is going to go on?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So if we could get some documentation to that
Okay.
effect, that would be helpful, even if it's just a copy of an email. That's just so we know that it's always difficult to get way down the line and then find out we've got somebody that didn't know about it, and then we give you some kind of approval, which most of those have a 10-day appeal period, and then we get a bunch of noise. So it would be much better if they were talking and it's kind of they're aware of what's going on. The other question when you come back that I want to know is, and I couldn't see it here, what's the square footage of this existing deck, and then the square footage of these two? I know they add up to 597, but what is it?
Okay.
And then
Those are
I
bigger
think
than-
in order to officially be able to deal with the modification, to send you on to the staff hearing officer, we're going to need a drawing of these pergolas, both sections, elevations, and the plan showing where the posts are, and whatever the paving material is under that, because this board will be asked by staff to make a determination, positive or negatively, whether we think they're appropriate or whatever, and we can't, at this point, can't really do that other than looking at that little small photograph.
Right.
So that needs to be on the drawings. Other comments? Okay, then the chair would look for a motion to give the applicant direction. I think we're aware that there's several missing things on here before we may want to try to give it design approval, and we certainly can't do any kind of official approval until they deal with the staff hearing officer and the modification request.
I'll make a motion.
Okay?
Go ahead, Fred.
I move to continue the project with the following comments. We'd like to see a better clarification of what's new, existing and what is proposed, in particular with the floor plans and the site plan. We'd also like to comment that the floor plans perhaps be a little more condensed, like proposed and existing on the same sheets for easier understanding. To contact the neighbor on the west side and to have some kind of documentation or communication that they've been notified and are aware of the development. I don't.
We need drawings for the.
Oh, we need drawings and photographs of the existing pergolas that are in the front yard setback.
So plan, section, and elevations.
Plan, section, and elevations. And I think that's my motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Sorry, was it continue back to the full board?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Katie, I assume you'll work with the applicant to sort out the logistics of the staff hearing officer exercise?
Yeah, it won't be forwarded on to the staff hearing officer until you give your comments of either support or not for the aesthetic appropriateness of the pergolas. So it'll come back to you before it goes to the show.
Okay, and then just before we close this all out, based on this site survey, it's showing existing pool equipment right here in this little rectangle. I don't know if you can see that. Oops, I'm sorry, from here. And what you can't see on that screen is the setback line is right there. So is that a problem? That's just a question to, maybe you can sort it out with the applicant.
Yeah, I'll discuss that with you.
Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion to the motion on the floor?
I think, well, you made a comment about cleaning up the site plan.
So it's a graphic thing.
It's a graphic thing. It's also a dimension thing.
Yeah, oh yeah, you need to get the dimensions on here.
Correct the front yard setback line, and clarify where it's located.
A lot of these comments have been addressed in the plan checks.
That's right.
There's a red line drawing.
That is correct, so that's fine.
Okay, any further discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, so carried. Okay, Katie, we're about 10 minutes ahead. Can we go ahead and proceed?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, okay, we're going to go to item number 6, 1325 West Mountain Drive. Hi, welcome. You could introduce yourself, please.
My name's Brian Zant, I'm a designer for Fairwind Cusack.
Okay, welcome. This is a new item, so I'm going to read into the record the project description. This is a proposal to enclose an existing 502 square foot patio on an existing 2,130 square foot, one-story single residential unit with a detached 499 square foot two-car garage. The other site improvements include a door replacement, the addition of painted black metal trellises to the south-facing doors and windows, proposed total of 3,131 square feet of development on a 1.82 acre lot located in the Hillside Design District is 58% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. This is here for comments only because it requires an environmental assessment. And Katie, just to double check, is that still true?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And they need to address some plan check comments before it can get PDA.
Okay, thank you. So if you could share with us what you're doing.
Sure. We are on Mountain Drive, probably about a mile away from Gibraltar Road. Do we have the photos, or should I bring out mine? The existing house is a T-fire rebuild. It was actually relocated. It was a house that was relocated to this location. And we have a covered patio that we are enclosing. We're opening up the walls here and enclosing this with steel doors and windows. We're going to put, because this is south-facing, want a little bit shade cover, so there'll be a steel metal trellis that will be added at all those windows as well. Doors and windows. Pretty straightforward. It's enclosing that space. There'll be a landing outside of the doors, which are located here. So that will be hardscape that will be replacing what is currently a lawn, and then the lawn will remain. So we have a landing here, and we're opening up these walls to open up this space for a nice big living room and dining room. I can show you the existing elevation on that south face is flat arches, or jack arches, little radius arch. We're going to go to flat when we enclose those, and maximizing the height of the glazing we can get there. So there's our 8'6" high doors and windows, and our trellis above. This bedroom door is actually changing out as well, opening up a little bit. And on the east elevation, same thing. We have the enclosed area going flat. Real nice steel doors and windows. And this is our proposal for the trellis. Very similar detailing, painted black. So the property is this, is tough to see from Mountain Drive. You can get from the driveway that goes up to the property, you get the slightest glimpse of the top of this parapet. So you can't really even see the, what we're enclosing here. And then it's all covered as you get closer.
Okay, that's it?
Yeah, we do have a color board. I know we can't get approval today, but same color plaster going. Black steel doors and windows, and then a light with it's an LED light that's hidden in the canopy here, so we won't see the light source.
All right. If there are no further comments, no further presentation, then I will go to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address this project? Pardon?
I approve this project.
Okay, do you have a comment to make to the board, sir?
No comment.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just a neighbor.
So this is a public forum. If you want to address the board, you're certainly welcome to, but you need to fill out one of those slips. Whether you're supportive or not supportive, one way or the other, we just want to hear from you. So if you want to make a comment on the record, you can fill it. Yes, fill that out and come on up, because I'm going to have you speak into the record. This is all recorded, and you're on television right now.
I'm on television?
Yes, this is. Okay. It's the yellow pad right there. Yeah. Okay. You can fill it out after you finish, but if you want to just come up and, we just need it for the record. So if you'll take that microphone, please. And if you can give us your name, and then you have 2 minutes to tell us what you have about the project.
Yes, my girlfriend and I have a place right across from this location.
So you're where? Oops. So this is the project, so you're where, over here? Or over here, okay, right, all right.
Right across Mountain Drive.
Okay, the other side, okay.
Yes.
Right.
And we just want to say that we're probably the only neighbor that can see that project.
And you're who?
The Clarks, Beverly and Tony Clark.
Okay, thank you.
And we don't have any problem with it. I don't think anyone else can see that house but us.
Okay.
We just wanted to support them.
All right. Okay, thank you.
That was it.
Okay, great. Okay, the chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. So Pilar, welcome.
Mr. Chair?
So as I understand it, we can only give it comments today because it still needs an environmental review, correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
What's the questions? Questions?
Yeah, so go ahead.
What's supporting, when you're opening it all up, what's supporting it? Columns in there of the existing?
Yeah, there's existing big 12 by 12 wood columns.
That?
So this wall's coming out, and there's a lot of steel going in.
Oh, you're just enclosing it. It's got.
Yeah, if
You're going to enclose this
you
whole
can see
thing.
here,
Okay.
this is before, and then this is after.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you're going to take most of that out, but there's some columns in there that's supporting
Correct,
it.
yes, yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
All right, so I'm just going to walk through. So the front, that's staying the same.
Correct.
This is where it gets changed on the side. That's
the west.
Well, it's not, this is,
Then that's getting changed to this.
this is not staying the same, it's turning into that.
No?
No, that's,
Where is this?
sorry, this and here's our existing west, proposed west. So there's existing, staying the
Oh,
same.
so those are shadow lines?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Oh,
that's-
okay.
So that's all staying the same.
Correct.
All right, cool.
That's staying the same.
Very good.
This is the side, that's that side right there. Then we have the south side, essentially.
This is
Now
actually
it's
the
gonna-
south, yeah.
Yeah, which is going to look like that. Today it looks like this.
Correct.
Okay, and then further over, this is the south side. So the enclosure is just the stuff we're seeing here. So that's
Correct.
where the square footage is.
These three openings here,
Right, okay,
the
gotcha.
two on the west, and then there's one on the east.
And then the bedroom there.
And then the bedroom.
See the floor plan.
Okay, and then if I go around the corner, I'm going to see that.
Correct.
On the east, so that's over here.
That is right here,
Or here,
correct, yes,
excuse me.
yes,
Here. And here is this blank wall.
Correct.
Okay, and that's this one, and that's that one.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a little, this is confusing me. What-
Well, because he put existing and new right next to each other. So that's what exists.
Yeah.
They're going to enclose that on the side. If you look at this photograph.
Right, but then, is that,
Yeah. So there's 3 of these arches on the front. They're going to take out and make into these straight. Okay, and then there's another arch on that side.
oh, okay, so that's separate from this thing.
Yes, that's nothing. That's the front of the house.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and that's the front of the house. And that's the front of the house. That's existing, right?
Correct, yeah, that's on the north side.
It's going to remain. Okay, and then this is looking down on the top of these steel grills.
Correct.
Okay, this is somebody else's.
Correct, it'll be a
house,
very...
but it's similar to that.
Correct, yes.
And that's some of the detail on the line. Okay, got it. All right, are there other questions?
That south elevation is just, those little
Now, because
4 foot
you're,
wide are going to, sun's going to come right there.
Yeah, it's,
They're not going to do any good, really.
we're projecting 4 feet, yeah, a
won't.
little bit.
I don't claim to know because I hope somebody did a sun study.
Yeah.
But one of my questions is, because you're taking away this hard surface patio area and enclosing that, is there no plan to do any landscaping out here? Or any hardscape?
Yeah. It'll be a stoop, a landing, a required landing at the door here and at this door
So
here.
that's
but-
not on the drawings yet?
Well,
Or is it?
yeah, kind of, it should be. I guess I got, this one's here. I'll need to put one that goes across here. Yeah,
So that's
correct.
going to have some kind of concrete tile?
Yeah,
or
concrete
whatever-
or something,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the yard remains the same?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Other questions? Let's go to comments. We can only do comments today because the staff needs complete review.
Again, on the last project, bring the site plan up to, keep the site plan going with the project.
Okay.
This is too much, doesn't tell us enough.
Okay.
Doesn't have the stoops, doesn't have,
Other comments? One of the comments is you can actually, you do see this from the street. I went out there Saturday.
come down and,
Saturday afternoon, and you actually see it. You can read your little sketch where you had the photographs.
I believe somebody...
Yeah, you can actually see it from right here. You can look up and see that. So these folks that just testified live apparently in this house, and you can look across that. So you can see it. So, but I don't have a big problem because you see it in this case.
yeah, I did that, huh?
So the only issue my fellow board members might want to think about or look at is it's changing the complexion of the style of the architecture. And in this case, in this neighborhood, is that important? And my only other comment, well, they kind of done it here. These two things look a little odd to me, but that's just me. Okay, other comments?
Yeah, I want to follow up with you. That's kind of why I was focusing on this front entry, because it looked like they were going to square it off, and it was kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of deadening the kind of quality. But I think since they're keeping this, I kind of like the character. It has kind of an interest to the city, the house, like a exclamation point, and I think it kind of gives character and a little fun to the overall look. And as far as here goes, I think it'll be, for me, I think it's okay. I don't think it's.
Yeah, we're in an area of the city where this is not going to have houses sitting right next to it. We're not looking at a streetscape.
Right,
You know,
right.
all these homes kind of sit separately. They're surrounded by a lot of land.
Yeah.
And as I say, yes, you can see it, but I don't know that it's going to really upset anybody that they've.
Yeah,
do what
I
they're
think
gonna do.
I think
if
it's
this was elsewhere in the city, then I probably have some major concerns, but not here. Other comments? Okay. Then we need to form a motion with comments so that he can return, whether returns to the full board or consent, once staff has the opportunity to complete their review.
I'll make a motion.
Okay?
I want to move it to give it project design approval?
No, we can't.
Oh.
It's comments only.
Oh,
but you-
comments only, okay.
But you can, if you want, you can make a determination, once you've decided what your comments are, whether or not returns to the full board or to the consent, once staff has reviewed.
Okay, my following comments are that the board supports the general architecture style of the house and the changes within the enclosed patio. The board would like to see a little more detailed site plan, clearly showing where the stoops are going to be, a little more clarity as to what the proposed site construction is. Are we getting a landscape plan? I guess we don't need one.
Up to you guys, making the motion.
What tier?
They're not triggering any tier because they're not doing any paving.
Okay. And the board supports the overall style of the architecture.
Okay, and it's returning to?
To consent.
Okay, so that's the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, for further discussion to the motion.
Do we really want to go back to, you think it's simple enough if we,
Just squaring off, he's enclosing that porch with squared off doors, and I think it looks fine. I don't.
okay. Go on.
Okay, is that the motion? Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay? All right, we will see you at consent calendar. Okay, is there any further business before
Full
the
set
board
of-
today?
Full set of working,
What's that?
full set of working
Okay.
drawings.
Okay.
The Chair will then adjourn the Monday, April 16th,
We're over?
Single Family Design Board.
That's it, huh?